Good evening and welcome to the May 2025 Psychic Forecast. We've got a lot to talk about. I think you're going to like a lot of what I have to say, but there's some challenges that we have to get through first. I've got everything written in my notes. Because I don't want to miss a thing. So, firstly, um, for April, we forecasted a major regional blackout, and that happened in Europe recently. Now, for May and beyond, are there going to be more blackouts, and what's the implications of that? And also, we'll talk about the Trump presidency. Politics absolutely plays a role in the psychic forecast for the month of May. So let me see what we got here. So, also, we'll discuss new information on Trump and how long he'll stay in office, as well as huge global awakening that we're going to be seeing in the month of May as well, and how that will affect us all and will affect the trajectory of things that go on in the world, in the different countries and everything. And remember, the future is a product of the now. If we change the energy of the now, we can change events in the future, mitigate some of the more challenging ones while enhancing the better ones. So as we raise our consciousness, that helps feed the collective positively, and that's going to help us. I already need some water, and we have just begun. So perhaps we can avoid some of the more troubling 2025 psychic predictions, or the May 2025 psychic forecast. That's where we are. So we're not about fear. We're not about doom and gloom, but we don't sugarcoat it either. The idea is to prepare, and the information that comes through channeling. It comes through visions. It's not through my own perceptions. It's not through any political biases. So I try to conduct this almost like a news broadcast. That's why I chose the thumbnail that I did. I forgot which thumbnail I chose, but it's about the news anyway. So it doesn't come through any political biases. Now, if you guys want to join me at 11 a.m. on Sundays on Tarot Time, that's when I share more about my own opinions and my own take on things. But right now, I just want to give you the information just as I'm getting it, without editing, without any biases or personal stuff in there. I think I made sense. And remember, I'm just the messenger, and don't shoot the messenger. And I share more of my. Okay, I talked about that. So we're going to start out with a little bit of numerology and astrology, just a little bit. Then we're going to dive into the vision that I had of Donald Trump. I know that was one of the headlines on the title, so I want to dive into that quickly, not make you guys wait. And then I have like 10 or 11 pages written down. We're going to do some divination cards and direct channeling at the end for anything that I miss. Oh, thank you, Suzette. We love you. Thank you for the super sticker. And hello, everybody. And by the way, we're going to get started in just a minute. If you're watching this as a video, check the pinned comment for the timestamp. I'm just going to say a few quick hellos. Let the live people get their notifications, and we're going to dive right on in. And hello, Suzette, and thank you again for the super sticker. We love you. Hello, Josh, Brooke. Okay, there's 54 of you on already. So hello, Lollipops. Hello, Mary. Let me turn the pings off. Hello, Jody. Hello, Laura. Jost, welcome. If you guys are new, if you want to say where in the world you're from and join us that way, we have people from every continent. So far, nobody from South Africa. Maybe we'll get some penguins. Antarctica. We do have people from South Africa, but nobody from Antarctica. Hello, Brooke. Hello, Pam. Hello, Mary. Hello, Kay. All right. Hi, Yvonne. Hi, Doreen. Hi, Brooke again. Hi, M. Spree. Hello, Cindy. All right. You know what? We're up to 60 people. I think most of hello from North California. Hello, Michelle. So also when I do the Tarot Time on Sundays, we're going to resume this Sunday. That's when I start to post some of your comments. We make it more of an interactive experience, but I've got so much information to share about May 2025, the May 2025 psychic forecast and channeled messages that we're going to dive right on in, I think. Let me go to new comments. Hot in Florida today. It was hot yesterday. Hi, Jody from New Jersey. Hello from Lollipops from Northwest Washington, and Anita from Sacramento. I know that town pretty well from years ago, um, and New Jersey. And I'm in the Catskill Mountains of New York, just west of Woodstock, near Phoenicia, New York. So anyhow, let us dive into a little bit of the May numerology. And actually, I was preparing these notes, and I kind of went into a little bit of semi-automatic writing and channeling. So I'm going to actually read what I wrote in automatic writing, if I can read my writing. But in any event, to start out with, May of 2025 is a universal number 14 month that reduces to 5 in numerology. It's Mercury ruled. The freedom principle is paramount in the number 5, basically. And how do we get that? We add the number 5 because May is the 5th month to 2 plus 0 plus 2 plus 5, and we get 14, and 1 plus 4 is 5. So that's how we do things in numerology. And every number has a vibration. So when we go into different universal numbers of different months, that's a different vibration. April was a 4 month, a 13 month. A lot happened in April. There was a lot that went on, basically, and a lot of it was predicted. Some of the predictions haven't come true yet for April. A lot of you that follow me regularly know that. Some of them may have been mitigated, but I think a lot of them are still to come between now and the end of the summer. But we'll get back to that in a second. Also, a couple of broader strokes of the astrology is that Pluto goes retrograde on the 3rd or the 4th, I believe, at 3 degrees Aquarius. So Pluto's stationing in the revolutionary and evolutionary sign of Aquarius. That's going to figure in. That's going to stir the energetic pot a lot. And also, was it? I think it's Saturn. I think Saturn goes into a different sign. And anyway, I had that written down somewhere. Uranus, Aquarius, Revolution. All right. Anyhow, let me go into what I wrote down. So this is about this being a 14 month, some things to expect based on the numerology. Some of this is my knowledge of numerology. I've been studying for many years, but a lot of this came through direct channeling when I was writing. So firstly, karmic lessons, number 14, karmic lessons, freedom, discipline, manage your energy. So these are key points of success in this month for all of us. Healing, quick change in movement, favoring AI infrastructure to bring up the question of how rapid changes in technology may compromise or restrict our personal freedoms. And it can lead to impatient, impetuous, and we must remember to ground and not to react to things, but instead digest and respond that way. Combined with other factors, increases in storms, winds, fire, and water are shown under this influence, and it enhances all forms of communication, including telepathy. So that's going to be big, and it's going to get bigger. Extraterrestrials, connection with our ETs, the guides, our angels, our loved ones, great spirit, source, or God, enhances under this energy. The prevailing energy we feel are suspicion and fearfulness, but with the benevolent frequencies acting on the collective. Next page. This brings healing light into our collective fields and brings about awakenings and renewal, particularly amongst those doing the work, the spiritual work that is, or those that are karmically predisposed. And this in turn helps soften the collective and assist through the changes, tightening control and assaults against freedom, so softening all this stuff, as this is a healing wave of light washing over at this time. So let me rephrase that a little bit because it's automatic writing, so it may not necessarily be super clear, but this in turn helps the collective tightening control the collective through the changes. So what's happening in the world is there's tightening control and assaults against our freedoms, as this is a healing. Okay, but as disease is realized and oh gosh, sorry about this. But as healing So it's the healing wave of life washing over us this time. But as disease is released, expression of the disease, not necessarily diseases, but disease in our lives and in the collective, is a necessary part of it, of the purging, of a personal and collective reckoning of the karma, where your indulgences superseded your divine intentions, but now it is time to reclaim your power. So, if in May and the few months that follow, the world, if the world becomes a wrecking ball and the world that kind of disappears or becomes a wrecking ball, that out of the ashes the phoenix will rises, and this is your renewed freedom, your rebirth. The end times are upon us. This is your passage to the north. So the end times are basically about the new beginnings times also. So hopefully that made sense, even though that and big solar storms on the way, that's part of the forecast. Yeah, that's definitely part of the forecast for this month. Big solar storms, we'll get to that in a minute. So according to Jason, it's already happening, or it's already in progress. So grabbing more water. So again, just to reiterate, as these higher frequencies keep hitting the earth, a lot of what's beneath the surface, buried corruption, power over others, and thousands of years of karma in our collective fields, as well as within the earth, are released. And we may experience disease, we may experience personal issues rising to the surface. So keep doubling down on your spiritual practices, your breathing, connecting to spirit, God, or source, staying in the eye of the storm, staying in your heart. We're going to ride this wave through to ascension, basically. So that's what they were trying to say. Now, part of the astrology, we have Saturn goes into Aries on the 24th of the month, and then Pluto is retrograde. So with the other aspects, it will be progressive and revolutionary, with Pluto and Uranus aspected, calls to action, destruction and rebirth follow. So in the Pluto going retrograde, there's certain planets and aspects that are happening. Now, I'm not going to go too into detail in astrology. If you want to get a good May astrological forecast, gosh, what's the name of his channel? Integral Astrology. With Armand Diaz is a good place to go. So anyway, won't go into details, but the astrology supports our lives and the world changing significantly. So it supports big changes in our own personal lives, so get ready for that, as well as changes in the world. Strategy and following the path of freedom brings you success under this energy. So freedom is a huge thing. That's really part of the number 14-5 energies. Always work towards creating personal freedom. And you'll find that because in our collective and in our past lives, we haven't been free. Whether we've been rich, we've enslaved our riches. If we've been poor, we just enslaved. If we've been indigenous, we've been captured, so forth and so on. That most people are subconsciously choosing bondage over freedom. But these energies are so strong, we have to make different choices now, basically. So in any event, what else do we have? Thinking outside the box is key right now. And applied strategies. So understand your playing field, what's going on in the world. Don't freak out about the tariffs, the economy. It's part of the change, it's part of the progression and all that. Instead, assess the playing field, understand what's going on, and apply strategies to win is the message here. Think outside the box is key now. Deprogramming is imperative, and we have videos on all of this here on the channel. The economy is seen as a roller coaster this month, but if the Gallo brothers in the depression, but think of the Gallo brothers in the Great Depression, how they made millions of dollars. They had a vision. So who are free of the programming and think outside of the box, they're going to seize a lot of opportunities when a lot of people are freaking out about the change of the economy, the governments, and worried about losing all their money. Basically, you don't have to be one of those people. So anyway, seize the opportunity to acquire wealth, which further empowers and grants further freedom. So acquiring wealth is further going to empower us, which further grants us freedom, right? If we have unlimited money, we're more free in this world anyway. The energies of this month activate the mind. That's part of the 514. It's Mercury guided numerology. It enhances connection with spirit, higher mind. This is opportune energy to work with spirit, find your calling, your path to freedom that adds value to the world. The energies align this month for absolute breakthroughs and strokes of genius. So this is the time to find your stroke of genius, basically, and that's part of the message. Right, lollipops. I mean, yeah, you can lose what you don't have anyway. So some predictions for May 2025 psychic forecast. So again, I'm going to be working with my notes a lot. Sorry if I have to decipher it a little bit here, but we're saying new energies. Oh, we wanted to dive into the Trump vision also. So what do we say? Accelerates up to new spiritual energies. More people are going to have awakening. Higher intelligence helps guide the awakening. So again, we have a choice. Let's open our heart and do that. So about Donald Trump, I got a vision of him in a hospital gown, lying motionless in a bed with equipment around him. Now, before we freak out about this, remember things about psychic visions. One thing, they're subject to change. Timelines are fluid. Two, they can be symbolic. In this case, I don't think I was seeing him dead. I want to say, I don't think this is going to happen in April, but I want to put this out now in case it's sooner than I expect, or May. I'm sorry, we're coming to the month of May. But come July, August, keep an eye on things. I'll just put it out that way. Let me see what else that we wrote. And and that was basically it. Now there's another timing element, and before Trump was elected, I predicted he'd get elected, he'd get inaugurated on time. This was months before he was elected, and as soon as he got in, he would take really swift and dramatic actions, and all that happened. But I also forecast his presidency lasting 2 to 3 years, and I think that's still the most likely timeline. But there's a chance that it could change in July. And I'm going to talk more about that a little later on when I actually get into the section about Donald Trump, world politics, because again, I don't like to talk about politics, but if I'm going to give you an intelligent forecast, a psychic forecast, that's part of it because that shapes the events of the world. So it has to be basically. The other vision that I saw was an explosion, not necessarily a gunshot, but an explosion that could affect Trump. So that could be another assassination attempt. Now, you remember for April, we predicted yet another assassination attempt. When I did the actual April forecast, what I was saying is I feel like it's more likely it'll get averted. And some psycho, I think in Wisconsin, killed both his parents to try to fund an assassination against Trump, but that was thwarted before it happened. So this would be something different. I'll put it that way. Something to keep an eye on. We could be looking at some kind of an inside job. There's so much intrigue around the U.S. politics, around world politics. There are higher forces in action that are trying to guide and dictate who's elected, who's in power, how the world politics play out, whether Donald Trump's an outlier and has his own agenda as part of the grand plan, as it were, of the deep state. Well, there's evidence that could support both theories, and I'm not going to say which one right now, but be aware that there's bigger forces, greater forces in action. So we're going to get more into that. In fact, we will in a second, because I'm going to jump into the economy now. I hope it doesn't happen either, Pam. And again, let's raise the collective. We forecasted an April assassination attempt. It never happened. It got thwarted before it happened. So you see, psychic predictions are just that. They're predictions. They're basically feelings, images, or realities connected to this timeline. But if we change it, we change some of the outcome. Some of it's written in stone because it's part of our collective, whatever you want to call it, our collective story that we're living. It's part of the matrix reality that we're living, or the Maya. But what we do with it is our free will, individually and collectively. I'll get more into that, but right now I need a lot of water. I guess I was in the sun a little bit today. So the economy, I'm seeing a mixed month basically. We see ups and downs in markets continuing. This is what we forecasted for April, that it would go up and down, and we've certainly seen those oscillations. A lot of it was with the tariffs. I'll talk about that in a second. Um, and possible declaration of a recession, but I still favor more of a reset than a full-on recession. And plus, that's more likely in June or in the summer than May anyway. New trends for unprecedented times becomes hard to predict. Precious metals remain your best bet for investments. That would include gold and silver, basically. New currencies, probably cryptos will roll out. We're already seeing that happening, by the way. Changes in the Canadian dollar exchange rates internationally. Tariffs play a major role in the reset. And I've been pretty close to 100% in predicting the tariffs and the trends of that. And as predicted for April, there some of it would be rescinded or modified, and they actually put a hold on some of it, or our president, the U.S. president, did for 90 days, I believe. And so, what happens will play a major role. But Trump continues to negotiate around the world and trying to easing off some of it. Also, the number 40 came up, and this may be where we settle on a tariff for China 40% rather than 100 and whatever percent it is now. But the number 40 came in mind when I was doing this. I've seen meetings at OPEC or other nations around oil supply, so we may see some ups and downs in oil futures as part of it. Moving right along to the next page. And what do we right here? Predictions. And hopefully signs will emerge in the economy. Some possible upswings in the markets we're seeing possibly later in the month. And that could follow on the heels of some troubling financial news. All right, I'm just checking in checking in a few of your comments. Thank you, Michael, and welcome for that. Yeah. So, hopeful signs do emerge with the economy, so we can see some upswings later in the month after troubling news. Inflation holds steady or even eases despite the tariffs. That's what we've seen. The tariffs are rolling out. Oh my God, there's going to be terrible inflation. Now, understand all lines of information are compromised. Some are corrupt. So we can't take everything at verbatim. But the inflation reports that I've seen have shown better news in March and April, that the rate of inflation slowing down according to that anyways. So we see strong. Okay, what else do we say about the economy? Trolling news, inflation holds steady, just like that. And there's a lot more that we could say about it, but again, it's a big change. It's a reset. I definitely feel like Trump's going to be meeting, or or an advisor to him will be meeting with agency or organizations like BRICS Plus, for example, and other global financial networks and stuff of that nature. I do feel like moving towards more of an even exchange rate, or trying to balance that. I feel like a lot of resistance from the European Union with that, and a lot of resistance between Canada and the European Union. So I feel like there's going to be some conflicts in terms of things like economy, money, and trade and stuff like that developing at this time as well, and things of that nature. I don't think we're going to really be approaching Nisara Jisara reality anytime soon, but we may see some hints of that, especially if and when proposals roll out about putting currency, including digital currencies, on a gold standard or precious metal standard again. So we may hear a little bit of noise around things like changes of income taxes, even stimulus packages. Though I think we're hearing more about that in June, but look out for that as well. So there's a little bit about the economy, anyways. And moving right along. I'll talk about ascension, awakening. New energies are hitting the planet right now. Strong surges of frequency will feed some of the global upheavals, but it's unfair systems that are breaking down as part of these higher frequencies that are affecting us. The facades will fall. Big surges of spiritual awakening will be happening through the month of May. I keep saying April, through the month of May and beyond. Beware of the fakes and those that manipulate energy to make it appear that they're able to give you spiritual experiences. We're going to see also things of AI and programs with AI that can simulate energy and spiritual experiences. Watch out for those spiritual rabbit holes. They're traps, basically. Um, and beware of fakes. Okay. And those who manipulate energy, double down on spiritual practices. This helps protect against the stress, the increase in electromagnetic frequencies we're all subject to, the negative programming machine that we're all subjected to in this world. This doubling down on spiritual practices will help to restore health, will help to detoxify the body and the energy field. Excuse me. Um, um, and balance and raise your vibrations for healing and upliftment and further awakening. And many of you are going to have very profound awakening experiences in the month of May. So we also see new teachers emerging. We also see some hints of a new Messiah, or maybe a group that are considered like messiahs of this new Aquarian age. And what's essential at this time is grounding. So do lots of that grounding, time in nature. Just being around trees actually helps detoxify your body. They've been doing studies about that because they emit energy and other trace chemicals other than oxygen, basically. Presence is essential. Meditation, doing your heart's brain coherence. We want to increase the frequencies of the heart because hearts cannot be programmed. And when the heart is coherent in emotion of gratitude, appreciation, and love, so you just get very present and very grateful, then the mind becomes coherent also. The brain comes into vibrational coherence. Then we're more connected to spirit. We resist the programming. We connect more with our power. We connect more with spirit. We connect more with source. The more of us that do that, the more it's going to affect the collective. So it's going to improve your lives. It's going to help others to raise their frequencies, and that's going to raise the collective, and that's going to help the transition become a lot smoother, basically. Very important. Yes. I'm moving right along. So so let's see. Trump and world leaders have unscheduled emergency meetings. This could be around national security that comes up, or new interests abroad, or new conflicts abroad, I should say, that affect U.S. interests, and therefore US or other Western countries start to get involved with it. So we'll talk a little bit about scandals, corruption, exposures. Another big month of that. April was a big month also. Look what happened. I mean, for people like myself, now, look at what's come out around the World Trade Center, and people like a lot of you and like myself. I'll tell you a little story. We were getting ready to go on a vacation. We were in upstate. We were getting ready to go to Long Island. September 11th, 2001 was a beautiful bluebird sunny day. I turned on the Weather Channel and saw the second plane hitting the tower, and immediately I got, there's something wrong. This is either an inside job. They knew about this. I mean, I got that this was wrong. Now evidence is surfacing that's supporting that. I don't think by the measure of science say it's proven by what's coming out, but anyway, lot of corruption, RFK papers, JFK papers, all this stuff is coming out. Now there's a lot more. We're just scratching the surface, basically. So let's see what we wrote. New shocking revelations. A couple of names we may hear that we don't know about or aren't sure about from the Epstein list. I don't think full disclosure of that. I question if there ever be full disclosure about that. I'm not making any judgments or assessments, but we have to be aware of everything because awareness is power. We know that Donald Trump and Epstein were linked for about 11 to 14 years. Doesn't mean that they were connected. Doesn't mean anything, but but there's other um, politicians, other names that are associated with that. A lot of the news that we get is convoluted. Again, it's to confuse and to get us down wrong rabbit holes. So, will we ever find out everything? That's questionable, but new names can come up about that. Exaggerated things like exaggerated claims on efficiencies of certain vaccinations, we'll say, and the diminishment of knowledge or publication of potential side effects that were known ahead of time. These types of disclosures start to come out. And now I'm not saying to anybody not to take your vaccines or to take them. That's strictly your choice. Just be empowered with knowledge. And a lot of stuff is coming out that people were aware of, that was hidden, that was oppressed, and now it's starting to come out more and more. So, so more whistleblowers come out with that. More on things like 9/11, JFK, RFK, concrete information on misinformation surfaces, more whistleblowers surface. We see whistleblowers committing suicide or just dying for no apparent reason somehow, right? Um, Sports and Hollywood scandals start to surface. More sex trafficking and child trafficking starts to surface. More calling out of the pharmaceutical companies, tech companies, global giants and all that. Asset management companies, government scandals within the Doge, within the current government as well as past governments, etc. Basically, deep state, the cabal, whatever you want to call that, unravels as virtually everything tied to world government and financial systems, health systems, education, food additives, and the like comes to light during this time, basically. So I see a bunch more people came on. You missed a lot of stuff, but you can go back to the beginning. So we also see possible biological agents and things like that being, we'll just say, introduced. Think of things like mystery fog or past pandemics, and you might get an inkling of where I'm going with that. Other toxins in the environment, new tests on populace to gauge responses and how easily controlled and manipulated there can be in the face of a crisis, basically. So, what's what we've seen the test? You guys can comment. What do you think about that? Chemtrailing continues, right? We've gotten some news on a chemtrailer being arrested, right? I think they're doing it in more subversive ways. I think cosmetically we'll see less chemtrails. Those are usually the lower and thicker, trails behind the airplanes. Not the thinner white ones. Um, and so so anyways, where was I? Controls continue, but more hidden. And so again, I'm just the messenger. Don't shoot me, but I don't think that's ending yet. I have to say, or geoengineering, or cooling down the sun, or a lot of this stuff. So again, more politicization or realization of how the global warming, which is a real event, but how that's being used politically, and how that becomes false information, even though it's based on reality. And full disclosures of corruption take time. So keep that in mind. This is years, it's not decades in the making. It's not all coming out. And I've been telling you guys for years, don't expect it to all come out. And don't expect that we're just going to magically go into 5D. We're going to magically ascend. It's a process. And we have to go through our steps of awakening, of opening, of understanding, and transcendence in order for the awakening to happen, in order for the full disclosures to happen, and in order for the old to fall so that a new, more just and more fair and more transparent system of government and rule can take its place, basically. But we're going to see more cracks in the foundation of the tower of modern society, and the tower is built on a corrupt foundation, a foundation of corruption, power over others, greed, and all that stuff. Start seeing more cracks in that for the ultimate fall of the old, that old tower. So, like the phoenix can rise up out of the ashes in a new reality in a new tomorrow. So, it's still a process. We're probably going to see through May, June, July, August, September, we may have a much better idea of where we stand and start building, or at least moving towards building a new society by then. Okay, more water, more agua. So let's see what else. We'll be okay. So that's the bottom line. Don't take this as fear and doom and gloom. We're going to be okay. We just have to be aware. We have to do our spiritual work, stay safe, keep extra food and stuff. I'm pretty well supplied now. As I've told you last month and the month before, I really, up until recently, did not sound the alarm on stocking up. Yeah, during the pandemic, I did note that store shelves would be empty. It's a good idea, but I didn't think it would come to the point, at least in the more affluent regions of the United States and the Western world, that it wouldn't become like a full on food shortage or a cutoff of the supply line. I felt that much more around March heading into the spring and summer. So have some extra bucks on hand. Have some extra food. I'm pretty well supplied now. I could probably go for about a month. I may try to get a little bit more, basically, but we'll be okay. And let's go into things about global conflicts now. So, no World War III. I trust in the process and divine guidance. That said, it's going to appear that we're heading into World War III now. But like I said, I do believe we have help. We have ascended beings that are guiding humanity's awakening and process. They can't interfere, but they can assist in guiding. And the way they do that is through awakening souls like yourself and myself. So our job is to continue our awakening, to be clear channels of divine information to help the collective. And the more we raise the collective, the more likely we are to revert a full on World War III scenario. From my understanding, through channeling the master teachers who are interdimensional beings of light, they're only going to intervene when absolutely necessary if we pose a serious threat to ourselves. And even then, it's very hesitant. In other words, like in Star Trek, there's an equivalent of a prime directive that those advanced beings that are overseeing our awakening, all eyes are on planet Earth now in the cosmos, because we are the society that's on the threshold of, metaphorically speaking, attaining warp speed, or in other words, attaining a higher level of awakening and enlightenment and higher capabilities, basically. So they guide, but they're not intervening, and they're helping us to avoid anything major that's going to really end or greatly compromise life on Earth. So I just want to make that clear before I go into this. No World War III. That said, we move more in that direction in May. New lines in the sand are drawn, battles increase. I have visions of armies in red, basically. To me, that's probably the Chinese army. So we may see a lot of military activity coming out of China. Now, this could be, understanding trends. I'm getting this purely from spirit as images, but I do understand that, part of this is just really understanding the trend also, and seeing what's going on in the world. But drawn in the sand. So there may be, plans of major attacks from China. We may get intel about that. As I'm saying that, I feel like you're saying it's already known, so it's already out there, and they're already doing things, to try to help with that. So other than that, more troops being deployed. We talked about that, and that's been happening. Area around the Persian Gulf is particularly highlighted. It was last month. A lot of activities going on there. Also, Southeast Asia. Battles or divisions shown in Europe, particularly in the east. So we may see a lot of strife in Europe developing also. We see intensification in airstrikes, possible nuclear threats. So beware of that. Also increasing rallies, demonstrations, much aimed at the Trump policies. So we may see more of that. And I wrote something here. As Europe conflicts increase, it will tip the scales of global power structures. having serious implications on the world. So keep an eye on what happens there, basically. Uh, yes, it's the season for planting gardens. Absolutely. Yes, yes. Um, and keep the conversation going, guys. I have to focus on my notes, so we're already almost 40 minutes in. So also increase rallies and demonstrations, right? I'm seeing like musical events and other events organized for democracy or raising funds for democracy. Some of that could be for fighting Trump. And again, I'm not playing sides here. I'm not necessarily saying that Trump has to be fought against, but this is part of the belief system. Um, and a lot of people do believe it. They may be right, they may not be. My job isn't to judge or in, or what's the right word, intercede my own views on it, just to give you information right now, and it's channeled information. People breaking barricades. I'm looking at the Capitol, maybe Washington D.C. or other countries. I understand there's a big rally around D.C. We forecasted that in April too. Shifts in world alliances, so different countries we may see starting to align, and certain allies starting to have friction, basically. But is this orchestrated by a higher power like the cabal or deep state to push forth further agendas for more control, power over the people, power over the government? It could be. So keep an eye on that possibility also. Top political figures can get indicted, not just in the United States, but in other places. Um, I understand Canada has a new prime minister. I think in 3 to 4 months there may be another election or a re-election. So there's a lot of struggles and challenges in Canada also. You know, so you got saw an image of a group of people shot at in a square, possibly in the UK or Canada. So again, yeah, we're in a very revolutionary time. Yes, so there's a lot of revolutionary activity in the US and other countries, basically. And again, the whole thing about the divide and conquer, it's just reaching point where humanity awakens, it stirs that up and it shakes that loose. And sometimes there's an upswing in violence before it's cleared, and then we go into more peaceful time. Let's see if we can avoid that step and just go into the peaceful times, right? So image of group of people. All right, more blackouts. So we predicted a large regional blackout in the month of April. I'm pretty sure we were picking up on what happened in Portugal and Spain with that. Questions arise. Was that a planned event to gauge the responses of that, or what would happen? Will there be more? I think so, but there may be also some huge solar flare activity coming in this month. And I mean really big. Carrington event, big, not out of the question, basically. I understand from space science we're overdue for such an event anyways. So more blackouts like predicted for age question arises with the planned events, hence a public response. And also, I was getting more of a hit on cell or internet blackouts, and that could be through satellites, through different ways that could happen. More world leaders stepping down or dying, like I predicted in April, like the Pope just passed on. And no, I don't think Donald Trump's is the Catholic Church's next Pope. Somehow, I don't think that's going to happen. For some reason, the name, and I don't know, who the Cardinals are, but is there a Cardinal Lewis? For some reason, the name Lewis popped in my mind when I was doing this stuff. If anybody knows that, let me know. And Jason, our power grids are so outdated. It's just like flimsy little wires, hanging from aging poles. And it would not take much. A solar flare, a gamma burst. It would not take much. And I don't believe I wrote this in my notes, but I'm remembering this, that I was also seeing a meteor impact in May. I think it's going to be east of us, maybe towards like Russia or it could be anywhere in the world, though. I don't always hit on the location. Not enough to cause a global cataclysm, but enough to get the attention and to change things around local climates or something like that. But anyway, mass exodus, protests in several countries. A lot of it's in response to political change. So let's go more into the politics, more into. So what about Lewis? That name popped into my mind, and it may be something to do with whether that's the next pope or something to do with the church. I don't know, but that name popped up in my mind. So anyway, so impeachment proceedings, they began already, so they're in earnest. So that begins in um, that might even happen in May. I doubt that the 2/3 majority is going to be reached in the Senate to oust the president. We'll talk a little bit more about why he may be forced down or stepping down, but I don't think that would be it. But there could be other things or other things that come up that flip that and change the votes or stuff like that, and news that comes out. Private interest groups or stuff like that, and international organizations. So again, tons and tons of pushback for Trump, and I have more to say about that in a second. So July, Trump possibly leaves, but I still favor 2.5 years. But around July, that came up really strong a couple months ago. So much I did, I think not one but two live streams on the channel about that. Um, mm. Okay, Lisa, I'll post this because this will validate something. So I don't know who Lewis is. There must be a cardinal named Lewis then. But anyway, thank you, Lisa, for sharing that. So comment. So something Canada, it gets very pressured by the UK, obviously the USA. We see strikes, lots of protests in Canada developing, and the European Union, Great Britain as well. Um, and censorship, free speech, social media issues get hotly challenges. I understand there were arrests in the UK for social media posts. So much for free speech in the Western world. Still feel issues with Trump's health. Something around that may surface in May. Now, some of you know that I predicted something was going to surface about Trump's health in the month of April. The only thing that surfaced was he was given a clean bill of health. So did I blow that prediction? Well, when I look at Trump, I don't think he's healthy. So we'll see. Love him or hate him. I mean, I'm not going to share my personal views. I don't wish any harm on him or anybody. Yeah, if something happens to him, I hope it's because the people have chosen and the majority rules. And I'll leave it at that. But in any event, I still feel like there's some issues there. And again, I had that vision that I shared in the beginning of him motionless in the hospital on IVs and other stuff like that, basically. Um, so Putin's health, that came up in April. I thought something would surface. And mainstream media definitely did not. As far as we know, Putin is alive and well and functioning and not ill. So we'll see. But that keeps coming to me. So we'll see what happens. News may surface in the next couple of months. I've seen lesions on the skin and cancer, but we'll see. In general, revolutionary energies of April. So April was a very revolutionary month. It was a 13-4 month in numerology. 4 is Uranus, number of revolution, and Pluto just entered Aquarius, the sign of revolution. That energy played out in April. We may not have seen a lot of revolutionary activity yet. So that's going to be playing out between May and August, I do believe, the energies. And there's also an eclipse season before that. So moving right along. No healthy. So Cindy is saying we call him felon 47 now. Now that said, I don't want any Trump insults. I'm not playing favorites, but since you mentioned that, I will just mention that if we just clear the program, just see what's going on, that we have a president with 34 convicted felonies. Now, does that mean he committed them? We don't know, but he was convicted under a court of law. A lot of it would be obviously on issues that wouldn't affect his presidency. But that said, you or I could not vote if we had one active felony. So if you start to look at what goes on, not just in US politics, but world politics, and see it defies logic and it's filled with contradictions, then you start to see through the game and you start to understand that we just see the show, and what goes on beneath the surface is very different. Friends may be enemies, enemies may be friends. Certain agendas may have been prearranged and start to play out at specific time intervals. I'm saying may because it's all alleged until it's proven, but I've been given some intel through remote viewing, through channeling, and through visions that I've had that support that. I'll just put it that way. So they always say, okay, so we see new patterns emerging that could ultimately help in domestic and global affairs. So what do we say? I need to read it before that. Uh, we coined the phrase organized chaos earlier, and that's what this administration is doing. I think that there's a method to the madness. The chaos is part of the plan. On one level, it may be just to kind of shake everything loose. On another, chaos gets people fearful, gets them more easily controlled. So it could be for one of those reasons or others, but it is happening. That much is for sure. So we coined that phrase around the world, but specifically with Team Trump in April, we may see new patterns emerge that could ultimately help in domestic and global affairs. We may see new patterns of government, new patterns of what's going on in the world emerging that could actually be helpful and beneficial, basically. As I always say, love him or hate him. There's a spiritual reason that he's the president now. Whether you despise him and think he's going to ruin your lives in the world, we have to get out of our personal stories and understand that we are a collective and this is an awakening. And we created the scenario. Whether Donald Trump, Elon Musk and company, RFK Jr. are the tricksters, the coyotes that are tricking us into learning, whatever the reason, understand that there's a spiritual reason behind this. Maybe it's what's to be revealed, whatever it is. So something that we creative as a collective to bring that tower down and to rebuild on stronger foundation. Whether you believe he's trying to expose the corruption consciously and he's your freedom fighter fighting for our rights. If you believe that, God bless you. You're entitled to that belief. Or if you believe he is the corruption and it takes corruption to expose corruption, whatever your belief is, this is the truth. The tower of a world we once knew, built on the foundation of greed, of corruption, of power over others, will fall under his presidency or slightly beyond his presidency, so we can start to rebuild our society, and that'll be around the world on a stronger foundation. Uh, Thank you, Lollipop, for that insight. So you guys are bringing a lot of cool things. Muslims to stop critters getting in. You guys let me know if there's a troll in, and I'll take care of it. Yeah, that's what I'm saying, MDR. People are not going to be convinced. I could say it, but this is what I've received from spirit. This is what I believe, and this is what I'm seeing played out. And I've been seeing this, gosh, not necessarily Donald Trump by name, but I've been seeing this since the 1980s, this type of scenario. And it's not only is he not playing by the rules, he's rewriting the whole rule book. And there's a lot to be said. I could talk a lot more about it, but we need to move on. So this is going to be a big month for things like extraterrestrial sightings, exposures, and stuff like that. We'll talk about climate and weather. Really big events are coming. Big geological changes are being shown to me. Massive movement under the earth leads to unusual seismic events. And I was literally seeing movement under the earth. Specifically, under the Mississippi in that area. Think of some of Baba Vaga's prophecies. You can find that on the internet. But anyway, big geological changes are being shown. Massive movement under the earth leads to unusual size of the earth. Watch out around Yellowstone for possible eruptions and earthquake. Watch out around the Pacific Northwest, Mount St. Helens. Watch out on Hawaii Island, maybe Mauna Loa rather than Kilauea, which is erupting, and anywhere in the world, basically. I'm not going to hit on every location that's going to have an earthquake or a volcano. Suffice it to say, activity is high. The energy's even higher and increasing under the earth, it's likely to increase and get higher, basically. So watch out around the Mississippi River, as I've seen moving and cracks underground. Could be a large southern plains earthquake from hydrofracking. Um, so watch out for that. More activity in Southeast Asia, Southern Europe, globally. Large tsunami still on the table for Japan, but I was actually literally seeing tsunami for May. I heard that tsunami for May. Now, I've been predicting a big tsunami for quite a while now. It hasn't happened. And yeah, we have help. So, you know, it could be that, but they're saying specifically in May. Now, we'll see if that happens, or if we're able to maybe shift the energies a little bit so that maybe the earth can release things in a way that wouldn't affect most of the world, basically. Anyway, we're right. In Alaska, I literally said tsunami in May. Timing is always hard to pin down, though. So that's the other thing that I wanted to mention. More record heat, environmental concerns and policies coming under fire, shown increased problems with fire, water, and wind. West Coast earthquake. We predicted a West Coast earthquake, specifically south of LA, for April. Now, that happened, but it wasn't that severe. It was a moderate earthquake. It wound up being a shallow 5.2. So it had the impact of about a 6.0, which is a really good shake. If you were around San Diego, you know that. But still, was that an example of me picking up on something that happened, but not as severe as it could have been? A lot of the prophecies for myself and others have wound up that way. They've turned out to be accurate, but they were more manageable than what was forecast. Continue to do the good work, feed love into the collective. That will continue. So what else? What's coming earthquake? Vision of the earth. I saw a vision of the earth literally wobbling, which suggests a major seismic event in the month of May or soon after. I'm concerned about the mid-Atlantic ridge, though I don't think that's gonna shake in May. If that happens or settles, that could cause a huge Atlantic tsunami, but I don't think that's happening yet. Or an ice shelf. I don't think that's happening yet. Now, I also, for March and April, had a vision of helicopters circling the Statue of Liberty. So what actually happened on April the 10th was that I think it was a tour helicopter, was seen circling the Statue of Liberty moments before it went down in the very south of the Hudson River. Now, as far as I'm concerned, that satisfies that prophecy. That satisfies that prediction. And unfortunately, everybody died in that accident. So those deaths withstanding, that was a much better scenario than like a terrorist attack on Lady Liberty, or other possibilities that vision could have meant. So I think that satisfies that, but still be aware of possible terrorist activity that's likely to increase again. They show me the Middle East, maybe Dubai, maybe for some reason Chicago keeps coming up. If not a terrorist attack, there may be a flood, a quake, a very violent tornado, or something like that. Very active, severe season continues as we forecasted for March and April. That came to pass. That continues. And I think that there could be some kind of terrorist attack, or even domestic terrorism on the U.S. or major Western city in general, basically. So get supply cash on hand. More blackouts, supply shortages are possible. Extreme solar flare related events, May through July, very, very likely. I'm leaning towards May, but that could happen, anytime. More fires. Can't rule out a second fire in LA. It's slightly south of the first one. Big May 21st came up as a specific date. May 21st. We'll see if something happens 20th, 21st, or 22nd. Because when I get a specific date, I can be as much as one day off. Earthquake, tsunami, big solar flare, power outage, power surge. Could be. So, yeah. So we've got to send a lot of love to Yellowstone, because we don't want that to happen. Absolutely. Yellowstone is an underground volcano. That's why there's geysers. And because there's more energy affecting the earth, and the karma and the pain stored within the earth and the collective field starts to get dislodged by these higher frequencies, there's more earthquakes, there's more activity, there's more weather events, there's more aggression and stuff like that until it's all purged. Then we come into a golden age. So again, the more positive, the more we can call on spirit, keep praying, keep doing healing, sending energy out there, the smoother the transition will be. We like a smooth transition. We don't need to go through lots of heartaches, right? And we don't have to. So tech and science, AI networks, we feel it more and more and more. So AI, that can be a great tool, that can be part of the awakening, but we're seeing it as a tool for further programming, further manipulation, for, or at least potentially or allegedly, and further controlling of the masses, basically. And May 21st could be an important date. It could also be UFO, a major UFO sighting around that time, or major connection with extraterrestrial intelligences. Major disclosures of some kind are very, very likely around extraterrestrial technology we use that may be partially gifted to us from more advanced beings, basically. New body mapping using AI software is shown to diagnose, almost like OBD readers, like to diagnose cards for the body. Not in May, but later on in the year or the years to follow, we may all be able to have these devices that we can self-diagnose before we see our doctor. So we may hear a little bit more news of that. Also, we did a full live stream on AI, the possible agendas and everything like that. But I think we're going to see, a lot of things come up with that surface on how AI, is being programmed and for what purpose it's being programmed. And note that every time we get an upgrade on our iPhones or computers, it's more AI technology uh, being included or rooted into the technology of our of our devices, basically. And you're going to find more than ever that you feel like you're being watched. It feels like that your devices know more about you than you do sometimes, and that's all about use for higher levels of surveillance and stuff like that. Mapping out the smart cities, building and completing the AI infrastructures to create more levels of control, all that stuff, leading into transhumanism and things of that nature. So we really have to understand that go with SI, not AI. AI is artificial intelligence, SI is spiritual intelligence, basically. AI cannot be a substitute for SI. It can be a tool, it can be used positively, but we see more measures of control being leveled with that. And we start to see things like jobs being shifted, more sophisticated AI, all that stuff on the table and everything like that. A little bit like tricorders, yeah, and stuff like that. And how do we dissolve our karmas? You start with presence. You start with working with the heart, opening the heart. You start connect with spirit, God, or source, and then you work with deprogramming technique. Karma is about learning lessons and growth. It's not about punishment. So understanding that also helps. So we have a little bit more. And we could see shifting regulations on cannabis to allow for research for things like MS, Parkinson's, HIV, and other things, new therapies for HIV, coronaviruses, cancers, things like that rolling out. So a lot of this is part of the Project Stargate to introduce AI technology and mRNA vaccines for some of our most serious diseases. But what we want to do is learn how to heal things naturally and understand how we can cultivate energy and frequency to help to heal the body, and natural things that we can do to firstly make us less susceptible to disease in the first place, and secondly to be able to cure things naturally. Now again, we're not suggesting not to see a doctor or that anything other than pharmaceutical drugs can cure your problems. Disclaimer time. But anyway, that said, what you feed your brain and what you feed your tummy are the two most important things when it comes to your health. Next on the list is genetics and pathogens. And you'd be surprised. I'm not going to go into detail of what I've been able to heal through mind over matter, but suffice it to say that doctors and medications could not do it, but I did it. And my faith, my connection to spirit, and cultivating my energies behind that. So learn how to do this. It's great to have these new therapies. It's great to be able to cure these things, but nobody can take your heart and your mind from you, but the powers that be can take away or withhold these therapies that can save a lot of lives. And who usually is it withheld from? The poor, the disadvantaged. That's who. Or those that speak up about things and don't score high on their social credit scores. Now, we probably won't hear that in May, but later in the year, we'll hear more about that also. So, also spiritual breakthroughs. Remember, high frequencies are creating upgrades in consciousness, forcing negative karma, corruption to the surface, cleansing the field. This is not easy, but necessary for ascension. And understand this is a time of global awakening, of spiritual awakening, and things need to be exposed. It may not be pretty, it may not always be great, but things need to be exposed. Yes. Beautiful moon out. Yes, it's a crescent, right? So let's do some divination cards as well. And I may think of a few new things. I want to do so this will help to channel more information for you. Oh yeah. We'll cross the bridge of social credit scores when we get there. Some of these things may we may evolve too quickly for that to happen, at least full on. So anyway, let's go in. Tomorrow night, Wednesday and Thursday night, May the 1st, May Day, Beltane, new month. We're going to do channeling. We're going to do mediumship on the medium channel. So tune in at 7 o'clock and you might get a message from your loved ones on the other side. So we're going to do that tomorrow night at 7. Sunday, we're going back to tarot time. And there I share more of what my opinions are on everything that's going on in world politics and stuff like that. And we have more of a discussion, as well as we do a forecast for the coming week. So we do weekly forecasts also on tarot time. And yes, it's a rebirth. Yes, this is time for rebirth. Thank you, Heart Sage. Absolutely. And this is our rebirth. So death to rebirth. And Beltane celebrates fertility, right? Or May Day. It's when everything's pollinating, everything's turning green. So what do you want to conceive? So it's about conception, right? Sexuality, creativity, divine sexuality, divine creativity. What divine things do you want to create in your life? May is a perfect month for that. Beltane celebrated May 1st. Astrological Beltane, which is the midpoint between the equinox and the solstice, is right around May the 7th. So we have that energy to manifest our reality. So and we're on a new moon now. So this is a good time to really double down on your law of attraction work. What do you want to create? If you can see it clearly in your mind, and when I say see it, it doesn't mean you have to visualize it. Some people have aphantasia and they absolutely can, but know it's real in your mind in the present moment. If you can do that, whatever it is that you want to create, if you can do that, it's so real in the present that you can feel it, taste it, touch it, and know it, and then feel grateful for it as if it's already real. Well, guess what? You're doing heart-brain coherence because you are opening the frequencies of the heart, which is the largest electromagnetic generator in the body, and directing it to the mind, which is the transmitter and receiver of those frequencies. And if you're present and you do that repetitively, then you take that energy to the realm of spirit, of the quantum field, and spirit, quantum field, whatever you want to call it, source, will create it in your life, whether it's through focused prayers, through law of attraction, or lighting candles. So do that. This is the time. So anyway, so let me just clear my mind. So you want a new home, whoever said that, visualize you're already in your new home. It looks great. It smells great. It has a great vibe, and you're so happy and grateful. And make it so real. You get so present, you're not a name, you're not a body, your energy and frequency. Then you start to link with your higher self. You start to transcend into the quantum field or the realm of spirit, which are always there anyway, but we're so hyper focused on our physical that we forget. So when you become present and transcend that, then you become more aware of who you are, spirit, and the timeless reality that we're all living in. For all time and all possibilities exist within the field, within the realm of spirit. And you keep doing that, you create a signal in that field, and you will create it. You may have to deprogram some blocks or obstacles may come up in the path, but once you do that, you'll create it. So anyway, we got deep cellular healing. So that may be, if you're finding that it's been hard to manifest your reality, you may need to do some deep cellular healing, some physical as well as emotional and energetic detoxes. And what this says is, Arcturus energy, physical and emotional healing. And you might notice there's chambers here. It looks like there's a great hole, and the figure is almost looks like the Wonderful World of Oz in a way. But the figure is kind of almost like the all the knowledge and wisdom is coming through this figure who's very angelic. This is the Starseed Oracle deck, by the way. I should tell you what I'm working with. And it's like a beacon of light and a beacon of energy, basically. So I think it's just sort of reiterating what I was saying. Like you could do all the stuff that I'm saying about being the reality, what you want to create, feeling it, seeing it, knowing it, sending it into the fields. But if you've got programming that works against that, it's going to be very hard to create it. And sometimes the programming is manifest within our physical cells as well as our energetic body. So do some deep programming, affirmations, sleep programs, intentions. There's a lot of good techniques. We have videos on how to deprogram here on the Medium channel, exercises and whatnot. Basically, I know this is an amazing card, right? Trying to get this in a way. And what gets my attention are the holes, basically. It's almost like coming into a new reality, as you were. So drink lots of water. I think they're saying to literally to have the way to do cellular healing is you stop all junk food. It's good to, if you can, stop things like caffeine, cannabis, alcohol, sugar, all of that stuff. The more that you can quit, the better. And do lots of water. And as the cells start to detox, you may not feel well for a while, but just keep doing it, because we store a lot of toxicity in our physical bodies. We have microplastics, we have heavy metals, complex chemicals, through industrial waste, through not to mention the vibrational toxins that we carry through the programming, through the EMF signals, the cell towers that are aligned and arranged in a kind of an inverted flower of life motif, which basically draws chi or energy from us and makes us more weak and prone to illness, to negative programming and such. But you can break all that just by going to nature and by working with the frequencies of the heart, because the heart's the largest electromagnetic generator in the body. So if the electromagnetic fields are weakening your field, and these negative electromagnetic patterns that we all live in are draining your energy, well, guess what? If you increase the frequency of the heart, increase your own fields by doing that, again, remember, it's the largest electromagnetic generator in the body. So if we do that, then we become resistant to the negative effects of that. And you can augment that by going into nature, going barefoot, feeling the flows of nature, doing breath exercises, doing yoga or spiritual exercise, meditation practice, getting present and feeling vibration and chi. That's going to really help a lot. And it's our jobs to do that. If we're going to be the way showers, the light workers, the new age leader, new earth leaders and teachers, it's our responsibility to take care of our bodies, to counteract the negative effects of programming, electromagnetic frequencies, poisons in our food. I didn't talk much about JFK and those agendas, but I'll put it this way. There's things that are going on with this administration that I'm happy about and things that I'm unhappy about. And by God, if we can get chemical-laden foods off the shelves, if we can have transparency around pharmaceutical companies, vaccination, that doesn't mean to be an anti-vaxxer. It's just to know what's hidden right now and what's coming out. If we can have that transparency so that we can make informed choices rather than to be guilted and shamed and forced into those choices, when we know that the information that we were being fed was not completely true and was fear-based, anger-based, and guilt-based. God, you didn't take your vaccine, you're going to kill an old person, right? Remember that rhetoric? Now we know, and I can say this because it's virtually a proven theory. We know that there were transmissions amongst the vaccinated also, and we'll see if that's accepted. If this video stays up, but I think it will. So anyways, so all this information came out just by doing that. Thanking, praying, thanking the food. I do Reiki over my food and water, sending positive frequencies, ingesting positive frequencies. We can do that. God, spirit, or source is still the source of all love. Whether your belief is in Christ Jesus or you have more Native American beliefs or neo-pagan or Hindu, Islamic, whatever it is, it's one God. It's the same God, basically. And I'm multi-religion and multi-faith. I have a Bible in my next to my bed, next to my mala beads, next to my instruments that I do chanting and do Vedic work. And I light candles. So, it's all God as far as I'm concerned. So thank you to the, what's her name? Rebecca Campbell's Starseed Oracle deck for allowing this, AI power. So yeah, I mean, we may seriously do more work and more stuff around talking about AI as it gets more prevalent. There's a good aspect of it. It could really be a valuable tool in our ascension, but who's controlling the AI? Those powers that want to control us, that want to spy over us, want to keep everybody in line and control the movements of society for the benefit of a minute few at the detriment of a great many. Or are those spiritual masters that want to help us ascend the ones controlling the AI, basically? So it's just a tool like any others. It's a great tool. It's a valuable tool. And it can be used or misused, right? So moving right along, let's get a message. So this is called the Divine Abundance Oracle. So we'll get a message or a prayer. Yeah, through AI, people are doing spirit communication through AI. I mean, it's not always accurate. People are doing it, as well as, like you said, talking to extraterrestrials. AI will, if you ask, if you work your Chat GPT or whatever the initials are in a certain way, you'll get AI disclosing conspiracy theories and things like that, and it's really amazing some of the information that you can get. So anyway, good suggestion. I will post this because it's just such a good suggestion. And it's just that mantra. Very good, very good. Yes. So we got delusion. So a lot of delusion is coming out, right? It's some of it's self-delusion, what we want to believe, some is what we've been fed through the media, through the governments, the corporations, and all that stuff. Intention without surrender can be a fast path to delusion. So in other words, I don't think there are any other words for that. Intention with that. I mean, what did it say? Intention without surrender. So when we open our heart and mind and blend with the quantum field, we are surrendering to that which is greater than ourselves, because we know the one that created us is going to take care of us always, no matter how bad things get. And yes, we have a lot of compassion for those that are suffering, but we also have understanding that humanity's been suffering dearly for thousands of years. And if an unfortunate spike in that suffering has to happen in order to clear for good, we'll just send them a lot of healing, a lot of light, and a lot of love. Some of us may have soul missions that involve suffering. It may not seem like that which created us is taking care of us, but they are. And if you surrender to that and understand that you're going to be taken care of and things are going to work out for you. So that is the true path of freedom. Surrender to that which is higher to ourselves, not to surrender to those that want to control us and dumb us down spiritually and in other ways, but that which wants to uplift us and connect us to higher levels of energy, being, and source. That's what to surrender to. And by doing that, your intentions will work. If not, you have an agenda. It's like, I want this, I need this. You're blocking that. So I think that message is clear, right? Do I need to explain that in any other way? Yep, it's all basically a mirror. Yep, absolutely. Or AI is basically a mirror. That's what you're saying. All the algorithms come from, what's that, casinos? And the algorithms are AI generated. They have been for a good while, and they're basically controlling the narrative, right? Just like the media itself, social media and the media controls the narrative of society. If what you're posting agrees with the narrative they want people to believe, you'll get a lot of hits on it. If it doesn't, you won't. That's why I'm not expecting this videos like this to go viral on YouTube. This is for you guys, basically. It's not for the algorithm, it's for us. If I softened it a little bit, like some of the others, then I do get tens of thousands of hits. This one will probably only get a couple thousand because we are challenging what they want us to believe here, right? So let's do a frequency as well. Frequency of the month through the sacred geometry cards or deck. So they've led me right to this card, and this card is emergence. We've gotten emergence a couple of times lately, and that's what's happening. We are having an emergence of consciousness now, and that's why everything is gone to you know what, gone to crap because of an emergence within the collective. The old has to fall away, but we are creatures of habits. Our survival instinct makes us want to gravitate towards the predictable and through the known rather than the unknown. So that's where resistance and the powers that be exploit the human survival instinct and exploit that, and so us to be fearful of change so they can continue their agendas. But an emergence is happening, and the card says the frequency of emergence invites us to approach our reality with a childlike attitude of innocence and wonderment, and to watch and celebrate the beauty that unfolds from that place. So you can get the energy from that. So as we are winding down, those of you that got on late, you can go back into the beginning. We've been on an hour and 20 minutes, so we've shared a lot of information this evening. And yeah, if you like the video, please like it, and that helps it to get out to more people. Share it with friends that you think might be interested in. If you want to subscribe to the channel, please, and then more of our videos will show up on your home feed. We do a lot of spiritual videos, educational videos. In fact, tomorrow afternoon at 1:11, we have a video coming up on a new technique you can use to connect with your guides and angels to help through these traumatic yet exciting changes that are going on in the world. When it's all said and done, humanity rises. The trickster becomes the source of knowledge. We transcend that. We grow, and things start to become much more fair, much more elevated for us all. And those agendas to control become more agendas to incorporate the technology for our higher good rather than as a tool for control and disempowerment. So much gratitude to you guys. Thank you for everybody that stuck out this whole live stream. Again, tomorrow at 7. Just relax. We're going to connect with your loved ones on the other side and give you messages and validations from the spirit world. So we're doing that at 7 tomorrow. All right. That's what I have. If anybody wants a reading, our email is info@atombetweentheworlds.com. The website is atombetweentheworlds.com, and this information's on the channel page. It will be on the pinned comment. All right, that's what I got for you. Take care, everybody. Be well. Stay strong. Big changes. We will get through it. Stay in your heart. Stay in your power, and you will be a success in the month of May and beyond. I love you.